Welcome back to another episode of Broke Up, Not Broke In. I'm your host, Jamie Lima, and founder of Allegiant Divorce Solutions, where we help people better prepare for, navigate, and recover financially from divorce. This podcast is your one-stop shop for mastering your life and your finances throughout the entire divorce process. In today's episode, we're joined by Dr. Michelle Maidenberg, respected therapist, educator, and author. Michelle's extensive work in mental health and mindfulness has made significant contributions to how individuals manage stress and achieve personal growth. Today, we're going to discuss her approaches to maintaining mental wellness, especially during life transitions such as divorce. So grab a cup of coffee or your beverage of choice and buckle up, and let's once again get you financially and personally empowered. Michelle, it's amazing to have you here today.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I think we're going to cover a lot here in a very short amount of time because we both have some personal experience with divorce that we can share. But maybe start there. What is your experience with divorce and maybe some of the challenges that you faced in your own divorce? Because I know you said you recently went through one.
Yeah. It's been pretty recent. There's so many challenges that come up, especially if you have kids. For those of you who have children out there, I have 4 kids from age 24 to 16. Mm-hmm. They're a little bit older, but there's always challenges that come up no matter what age, kids are. So there's emotional challenges that come up. It's a huge transition in one's life. It's disappointments, it's frustrations, it's grief. It's a lot of loss and grief. And also just recalibrating and regrounding and recentering, like, what am I going to do in my future? What is that going to look like? How do I see myself? And also understanding for yourself, like in terms of your personal growth, what worked and what didn't work. Why did I get, why was I in that situation? I know for myself, I could speak for myself. I was married 25 years. Yeah, which is pretty significant amounts of time.
Yeah, it is.
And I realized through my own personal work, because I didn't want to repeat the patterns of behavior or mistakes again in my future, I learned so much about myself. And I realized that for years I was repressed. I literally repressed my feelings. I recognized why I did that, which is so clear to me, because I came from a family where my parents divorced when I was 3. And even the idea of divorce was such a failure. I saw it as such a failure and something that I was avoiding my entire life. And I couldn't even imagine such a thing, that I think for the sanctity of my relationship and the sanctity of my family, I repressed my feelings so I could stay in my marriage. I wasn't open to seeing this before. I just wasn't.
And where did that come from? Where did the kind of this eye-opening experience come from? Is it because you kind of do this work on a daily basis, right? Yeah. So is this just basically going back and just saying, okay, like if I were my own client, what would I tell myself? Is that where that came from, or is it somewhere else?
No, well, that's an adaptation that I had growing up. I slip into and I default to repression. That's what I do. I'm a master at it. Like, if I don't want to deal with something, I know how to kind of cut it off, But we know that if we try to avoid our positive feelings, right, or our negative feelings, the other sets of feelings also get compromised. We're unidimensional. So as much as, and I was holding myself at bay, I was happy. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't all bad. So I held on for dear life to those happy moments. I had a wonderful family life. I had a spouse who was very caring and, who was an amazing father. And I believe I wasn't meant to parent with anybody else but him, literally. I appreciate that he was kind of my partner. I have a very amicable relationship with him, which is unusual too. So there's a lot, and I would not have gotten to the place I am now in terms of my personal growth if I didn't go through what I went through. So it has a lot to do with mindset and kind of where you are spiritually and emotionally and other things. But there was, because people always ask, was there like a pivotal moment, like an aha moment? And there actually was for me. You're interested in hearing it?
I am interested in hearing this. Yeah.
It's kind of, I'm like, should I say this? But I will, because it's so interesting. So I went to this workshop. It was on mindfulness and sports performance. And by the way, I do not share this publicly, but I guess I will. I went to a workshop on mindfulness and sports performance. And it just so happens that like most people at this workshop were coaches at these big universities, sports coaches. I thought it was going to be more therapists, and there actually wasn't. But they did an icebreaker. And typically icebreakers, you have, they go around asking questions to each person. But this was different because it was on sports performance. They had us do planks, right? Which was so amazing. And I'm very fit. I'm very athletic. I work out 6 days a week, whatever. And I'm very competitive also. So I was like literally head to head with this guy, this coach from this, and he was in his 30s and I was a lot older than him. Everyone was down and they told us 8 minutes. The longest plank was 8 minutes. And I'm like, I got it. I got it. And if I don't got it, I'm getting it. We were like head to head, literally head to head, both of us. And he wasn't relenting and I wasn't relenting, and everyone was like amazed in the room, and 8 minutes passed and we were still planking. And I looked at him and he looked at me and I was like, come on, buddy, this is ridiculous. Anyway, we both went down at the same exact time. Yeah.
Which was how long?
It was like 9 minutes.
Oh,
yeah.
Man.
I know. I don't know if I could do it today. Just saying. Yeah, this was like, a couple of years ago. But anyway, so we had this vibe, me and this guy. Again, nothing, whatever. Anyway, we started talking. We went out to, I think, dinner together. Very like open. He was in therapy for many years, like very nice guy. And, I'm a writer. I do a lot of writing, blogging. So he was interested in an article that I was describing to him. So I gave him, my number. We were texting. And then the next morning, he's like, oh, do you want to go for lunch? We went for lunch. And he said, can I talk to you? Can I tell you something? It's really like, I don't know if I should tell you this. I'm like, please, like me, you could tell me anything. I'm like, what? Yeah. So he said to me, goes, listen, I have to tell you that I'm really attracted to you. Like, I couldn't get you out of my mind all night. And I'm married, you're married. I'm like, yeah, I'm married. I was like, I appreciate you telling me that. And I said, the fact that we could just talk about it and not act on it is great. Like, it's amazing. Anyway, that, we were just friendly and everything. And then after the workshop, like nothing happened, obviously nothing happened and whatever, but there was something that got awoken in me from that, from that interaction. I don't know. I have to say, it was like, I felt like energized. I felt like connected to myself. I realized that like I was really being compromised in a lot of ways, like intimacy in other ways. And I was like, something just woke up in me, literally.
Yeah. And
That's powerful. I really attribute it to that, honestly, because I remember that was the moment when I said, this is not working for me, and I started exploring and I started understanding myself better. And I started like really tapping into my needs. It was pretty amazing. I'm so thankful to that guy.
And to have that experience. Yeah. Because now you have a new phase of your life that you have to look forward to.
Exactly. Yeah.
One of the words that you brought up in there is mindset and mindfulness, right? And I know you talk a lot about that on the website and in the books and all the stuff, right? So bringing this back to the financial for just a second here, if we may, one of the things that I find with a lot of the women that we work with, listeners have heard me say this 1,000 times, so I'll say it again. Sorry, dudes, but women are smarter when it comes to this stuff. So that's why 95% of our clients are women. But, you got to get away from that John Wayne syndrome, dudes. But like for the women that we work with, like there's so many spinning plates and so many responsibilities that they have and so many fears and all these things that they're feeling. Yeah. How does like some of the mindfulness practices and stuff, like what can they do to like impart mindfulness into their daily routine so they can better manage those stresses, especially when it comes to the financials?
So I have to say with women, particularly with divorce, what I find is, the financial piece is a very difficult one. It depends. Like I'm a working mom and I have a career, right? So I'm on a very different social platform than other women are. There's a lot of stay-at-home moms. There's a lot of women who are out of the workforce for many years. There's a lot of women who work part-time and they're not the primary, earner in their household. There's so many complexities, right? And I find that women who are more dependent, financially and otherwise, have a harder time leaving the relationship for very good reason, for very practical reason, because of fear and because of, like, again, how am I going to recalibrate? Like, will I go back to work, and what is that going to look like? And how am I going to make ends meet? And how am I going to, help support my kids? I mean, there's just, it's so complex. And again, I think there's insecurity also, so I think it has a lot to do with our attachment styles. It has to do with our sense of self in terms of how we see ourselves as being independent, dependent. It has to do with how reliant we were on our spouse and partner for meeting our needs and doing things for us, making decisions on behalf of us. And that's just the way it is. There's kind of gender roles that we take on. It's just the way it is. So I think people say to themselves, and I see with my, a lot of my patients, they say, I'm only going to do this when it's the right time, right? And years pass. And when is the right time? Like, what does that even mean? Or I'm only going to do this when it feels like the right decision. And I always say to them, you're never going to be okay about this. And the reason you're not going to be okay with this is because it's counter to your values. Any way you look at it, you're never going to be okay. You can't ever make a decision based on feeling and thinking it's going to be okay. You're going to have negative feelings. Negative feelings are positive because that means that you have belief in the sanctity of family and the sanctity of marriage and in terms of the well-being of your children. Would you want to be any other way? Would you want to be like, yay, I'm getting divorced? No, you want to be disturbed by that because that connects you to what's important to you and your values. So when it comes to finances, like it really takes like a service like yours or others, that helps somebody really sort all of that out and weeds all that out. Like what's the financial piece? What's the emotional piece? How to strategize? Because, you do have to have self-efficacy. You have to have the belief that you're going to survive, that you're going to be okay, that you're going to, manage, that you're going to be able to be your best self, that you're going to be able to be the parent you want to be. And all of that takes some grounding. So in terms of the mindfulness, the first piece of it is people don't want to accept their situation. Okay? And where stress and distress and suffering comes from is wishing things were different. And that is a major issue. And that is primarily what happens. There's this angst of like, maybe I could work it out and maybe I should work it out and maybe I should stay in it for the sake of the kids. And even though they've been in couples therapy three times, and even though they're coming home miserable every single day and don't want to be in their households, and even though they're not getting their needs met, and I could go on and on, right? It's like, it's a lack of really wanting to be in a place of acceptance. And they also kind of spiral into the future. They're not in the present moment, and that is, again, dictated by worry and fears and concerns and catastrophizing, right? And also, predicting the future. So number one for mindfulness is we want to get in the present moment. What is happening for me right here, right now? This is all I know. There's a lot of ambiguity. There's a lot of uncertainty, and that's what's making me anxious. But what is happening right now in this moment, right? What do I know? I know what my financial status is. I know, what I am going to have to compromise on if I leave this relationship. I know, and maybe you don't know. And if you don't know, you need to find out. So maybe you need to speak to a financial advisor. Maybe you need to use your service and really get a better understanding, because a lot of women don't know what they have. I didn't know what I had, actually. My spouse, he's a finance guy. He did all the finances. I was like clueless, literally. I didn't know what investments we had. I didn't know what equity we had. I didn't know anything, literally, which is, I am not advising anybody to be in that position, by the way.
We deal with so many women that are in that same situation. So what would you say to those people that are in that situation listening today?
Yeah, you need to really get, informed. Like that is so critical, because that is going to lend to your grounding. Like you need to know what you have. And right, that's so, so important, because it gives you, it empowers you. It empowers you when you have that information. So in terms of the mindfulness, once you're able to bring yourself to the present moment, then you're able to slow down your mind and really, really have some room and create some room between the thinking and doing. In other words, going down that rabbit hole, right?
Yeah.
And getting anxious and being irritable and yelling at your kids, which makes you feel worse, right? And staying in a state of denial and avoidance, right? Because that's what we do too. We avoid, we deny, we avoid, right? Like, I don't want to know about the finances. It's better for me not to know because what I don't know is not going to hurt me, right? And that was sort of me. That was sort of me, actually, because I grew up in a family where finances were literally like no joke, and he used to get so angry at me, which is understandable. He's like, you don't care what we have or what we don't have. Like, you just like turn a blind eye and you just let me worry about it. Like, why don't you worry about it? I'm like, nope, not worrying about it. Like, no, like I did that my whole life. Like, I'm not going there. And that's not mature. That's not like a developmentally appropriate position to be in. I'm an adult. I'm not a kid anymore. I don't have to be in that position. I don't have to follow those neural network pathways, right, that lead me to go into that place of avoidance. That's not healthy, right? So all of that information, and then once you create that space, right, you could really tap into emotionally where you're at. What does this feel like? If I was to take loss on, what is that experience going to be like? Right? What life lessons could I learn from this experience? How is that going to inform me for my future? And let me tell you, gosh, I am so clear on what type of relationships are not healthy for me. It's like, and I know the type of relationships I gravitate toward.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know my propensity to be in denial of finances and other things, I am so in tune with that. I'm so aware that I really challenge myself and fight up against that. And when it comes up, that mindfulness is being in this moment where I could stop and I could say, there goes my brain doing similar familiar patterns, right? Comfortable, right? Trying to get comfortable because it's familiar, but it doesn't serve me well. And then I could take the time to say, like, you know what, when I'm in this position, it's really painful for me and it scares me and it makes me feel so helpless. But guess what? I'm not, right? I'm not helpless. I'm an adult. I'm a woman who has a career and I have a lot, right, resources. So it gets you in a position where you're really able to tap into, like I said, that more empowering, stronger resilience, part of yourself, which you sometimes forget is there.
Yeah. Do you feel like the stress that the divorce brings on, or even just life changes in general, it doesn't even have to be a divorce, can sometimes result in bad financial decisions because of that stress? Like, I don't know, I'm thinking like, maybe people go out, like they drink more, they gamble more, they do this thing, they do that thing, they gravitate to these other things and they spend frivolously to make themselves feel better. And then the results of that are what?
Yeah, those are coping skills. Those are adaptations and coping skills. We all have them from when we were like, way, way small. But part of the self-growth is getting in touch with what those adaptations are and recognizing that. So once you're able to tap into that and understand yourself better, and this requires like a deep dive. This is like really, listen, we are avoidant as humans. Why? Because our brains are wired, right, to avoid danger and discomfort at all times. It's our executive protector, and that is 24/7. And our brain takes its role very seriously. And it's misleading. We can't actually believe and rely on our thoughts and feelings. They're not accurate. I really mean that. The only thing that we have control over is our behavior. So yes, we have to be very careful because our adaptations, our coping skills, our fears, our core beliefs, I could go on, what creates barriers that gets us into very, very poor decision-making and misjudgments and miscalculations, misunderstandings. And it leads to, in my book, it's called the ACE method, which I developed, and it's predicated on acceptance, compassion, and empowerment, and it's kind of this model for stuckness, any stuckness. But one of the ways that I start out, writing the book is talking about our neurophysiology, how it gets in our way all the time, and then it's prefaced around our values. Once you're aligned with your values, and you're going through a divorce and you're going through any kind of adversity or anything that's coming your way, you don't have to rely on anything else but being guided by your values. That is what leads your way. And it's It is powerful. I mean, I'll just give you like a quick example. So I just got out of a 1-year relationship recently. Mm-hmm. And, you know, what drove me to keep re-engaging in the relationship was kindness, you know, because, and so sometimes I stay in relationships too long because I am such I'm an empath by nature. I'm an incredibly kind and thoughtful and generous human. You know, it's like I feel feelings on a really deep level. That's just who I am as a person. So I give my all. Like I put myself into things and into relationships, you know, and I get caught up in that. Right. But like to get out of the relationship was so difficult for me because then the other person would be hurt and then, you know, and on and on and on. But guess what? I finally said to myself, dignity versus kindness. In this particular circumstance, what needs to be formative for me in order for me to be my best self? And it doesn't discount my kindness because my kindness is there. But in this situation, I have to think about my dignity because that has to be formative for me. And it really led to my demise. And I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of myself that I'm disturbed by having a lack of kindness or that it affected somebody in a negative way. But I'm proud of myself that I feel that pain because I wouldn't want to be any other way. I wouldn't want to be okay about that.
You're not a sociopath.
No. So I could have the grief and also feel proud of myself at the same time and not beat myself up over it, you know, and also recognize that I'm not in no way compromising myself because I'm making a very mindful, grounded decision for myself, even if it's painful, you know? And then the other piece also is that, so in each chapter, I spend one chapter in each section talking about the barriers. There's so many barriers that get in the way of making, like you talked about, decision making, that get in the way of our decision making. And in divorce, because it's such a pivotal time emotionally, I mean, emotions run so high because, like, you know, 1 minute you're relieved, 1 minute you're sad and disappointed, 1 minute you're feeling grief, 1 minute you're feeling freedom. You know, it's like you know, there's a book, right, called Crazy Times. That's like one of the, you know, kind of books around divorce. Crazy times that like epitomizes it. Seriously, like sometimes you feel like you're going crazy, like literally. It's crazy making.
That I definitely need to read that book. I've heard of it. I have not read the book, but my divorce was definitely crazy. And in some ways it still carries on. Even, you know, I've been remarried for 6 years now. So I still see pockets of craziness from my divorce that rise up every now and then. One of this is all amazing and like so much good insight here. And it's making me think about like my own experience going through a divorce and some of the emotions that were tied to it and my lack of mindfulness in some ways. But what it's also making me think about is the support system that you need in place to help you navigate all of this stuff. Right. And I listeners hear me say it all the time, and we talk about it in our Facebook group and in social media and everything else. It's creating Team U is the thing that I keep going back to all the time. It's creating Team U and surrounding yourself with loved ones and so on and so forth. So what role do support systems play in managing both the mental and financial challenges that we face?
Yeah. I mean, resources, support system is so critical, you know, and I want to say not everyone has one. Not everyone has support. Yeah. So I think we have to, you know, I think that sets us up also for kind of, you know, self-deprecation, you know, and also we have expectations of what support needs to or should look like also. So we have to be careful with that, you know, and supports come in all different forms, shapes, and sizes, by the way. So it could be your pet. It could be a dog, you know, like my little puppy. She has helped me, like literally, like I said, she saved me. Like, I'm not even kidding. You know, I don't know. It's a cliche, but, but I really mean it. Like, cause she doesn't talk back and she could like, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you know, but that could be somebody's sense of support and that could be wonderful. And right. Whatever it is that empowers you. Like for some people, it's religion. For some people, it's spirituality. For some people, it's family. Some people, it's friends and friendship. It could be anything. So I really want to say that. like it could be exercising and fitness, whatever it is, whatever you could connect to that makes you feel right part of a community or a sense of self or, your wholeness and your worthiness. Yeah.
Have at it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a big fan of it. I mean, I tell people all the time, like, you need to have, if you're going down this path, the last thing you need to do is push people away. That was one of the bigger mistakes that I made in my own divorce, was just like, because I'm originally from the East Coast as well. I'm out here in San Diego now, but the entirety of my family is in Rhode Island and Massachusetts and in that neck of the woods. And I didn't want them to have to worry about me from 3,000 miles away. And even though I could have used, a sounding board and the support system and everything else, I was like, hey, listen, I got it. I don't need any help. I'm going to make it through. You guys just, live your life. Don't worry about me. I've got it. And unfortunately, my ex-wife, reached out to some of those family members and, alienated me and told them a bunch of stuff that wasn't true. And because they weren't hearing from me, they didn't get my side of the story, and they took her side as gospel. And I ended up losing family members because of it. People that were there for me since I was, born, and it's going to make funerals and weddings and all the other stuff moving forward really weird, but it's unfortunate because I see that stuff happen all the time.
Yeah, it does. I mean, that's one of the things that's so heartbreaking and difficult, right? Because like, even if you go out as couples, right? Like, who aligns with who, and, who maintains friendships with who, and same thing with family structures and family members as well. So it gets convoluted sometimes. It does. And especially if there is, again, if there is like, turmoil, right? And, in a relationship, I mean, again, I'm very fortunate where I don't have that. I'm very fortunate. I really am, because we're very amicable. So we even do holidays together, and again, I think that's going to change once we both have,
respective partners. Yeah.
I know over time, but right now it's been that way. So I'm very appreciative of that. But I also work with many people where that's not the case, literally they don't even talk, they text or not even text at all. They go through attorneys, to have any kind of communication. So I see the gamut, literally.
Yeah. Well, we are at the carte blanche segment of our discussion today. Before I let you go, is there any questions maybe I didn't ask that I should have asked, or anything you want to share with our audience that would be important for them to know that we didn't cover today?
I guess I just want to validate everyone's feelings. Yeah, because I think there's this prescribed way we think we should be feeling when we're going through adversity. And I want to say that any way you feel is okay. There are times that, and it's going to be a rocky road. Like, there are times you're going to feel empowered and you're going to feel strong and you're going to feel like, yeah. And then there's going to be times that you're going to feel so incredibly helpless, and where you can't see in front of yourself. And as long that's why I developed this, because as long as you have confidence and you are forever living your best life and you're putting intentional effort into it, you're going to be okay. And not only are you going to be okay, you're going to believe that you're going to be okay. And that's really the most important thing, because often we lose confidence in ourselves and that becomes very self-destructive. Yeah. So I just want to validate. That's it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. Where can people connect with you or get a copy of your book and other resources from you?
Well, this is the book. It's called Ace Your Life, Unleash Your Best Self and Live the Life You Want. I also, I have a YouTube channel. I actually publish new guided meditations every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. on all different topics. A Psychology Today blogger. So I publish a new article. They're usually self-help and all different kinds of topics as well every month. And then I also have a nonprofit, which I have to plug, but it's called Thru My Eyes, THRU, My Eyes. And it offers free clinically guided videotaping for chronically medically ill individuals who want to leave a video legacy for their children and loved ones.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I am trying desperately. I'm trying to restructure right now. I really want it to be vast and offered nationally. I did over 300 videotapes. I customize it. It's a whole, it is so therapeutic and incredibly helpful for families.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I've ever heard of anything like that. That is incredible. I picked it up on some of the research I was doing heading into our call, but and I'm glad you mentioned it. I think it's phenomenal.
So I am looking for partners. I'm looking for, anybody who's interested in doing this kind of work. I have no ego in it. I really, really just want to help people. So like I said, I'm really looking to restructure because I do have a new business model and I have everything that in place. I just need really help. So if anybody's interested in that, please contact me.
Well, hey, I'm sure somebody listening it'll definitely pique somebody's interest. And we have a pretty vast network of divorce financial professionals and divorce professionals in general that you should come join us in some of these groups. It would be great to have you there because I think you could be an amazing resource. Thank you again for sharing all of your insights and strategies with us today. For those of you that are looking to delve a little bit deeper into Michelle's work or seeking other resources on mental wellness, please don't hesitate to. I think the best place is probably to start at the website, right? Which is
my website is the best place.
We'll get you all the links and resources and everything else in the show notes. But visit her website at michellemaidenberg.com. And if you're navigating through a challenging financial or emotional landscape, remember that us at Allegiant Divorce Solutions are also here to help. So visit us at allegiantds.com for more resources and financial expert advice. Please subscribe to our podcast for more empowering discussions. And until next time, take care of your mental and financial well-being.
Thank you.